Welcome, beautiful souls. It's Analena here, and I'm here with the amazing Debbie Levering. It's her third time.
I know.
She's a social superstar for the Art of Slowing Down podcast. And I have to say right now, I think the last 3 episodes, I did solo episodes, which I really enjoyed, but I'm very happy to have a conversation today where I just get to respond, I also I like the combination of both, I have to be honest. And yeah, obviously one of my favorite people to talk to. So
Oh,
oh,
thank you. I know. It's exciting to be back.
plus this is also going to be on YouTube. We decided that, right? Because we look so pretty today and we have to share this with more people. Awesome. So Debbie, what has been happening in your world? And so just everybody knows what we're going to talk about, to give you a little agenda. As we are manifesting generators, we may drift off a little bit. We never go linear, right? But Debbie has a very special announcement because it's all about podcasts and how to make decisions as a manifesting generator. And we're going to talk about the envisioning phase, how this looks like. And because Debbie made a very big decision last week, and I think I helped her, guided her. There was something that happened between us for quite some time. And it was just so beautiful. So I'll let you do the talking about it. What is it? What are you going to do? What's going to get out into the world?
I am going to launch my own podcast. Which is super exciting and super scary. And yes, I feel that it's the right time. And it's so easy to look back now and see how everything unfolded. And it was also amazing to just have your support in guiding me really simply through the steps that are necessary, because wanting to launch a podcast and having the name and creating the artwork is one thing, but then it's like, okay, now what? And I know I'm a 5-1 line, so I can Google everything, but like putting it all together in a way that's just so easy, and it doesn't have to be done by professional. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to outsource everything, like maybe some things like music. But so yeah, I'm super excited, scared and excited.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So actually I would love to, because since we're both manifesting generators, like you say, you're a 5-1 emotional authority. I'm a 2-4 sacral authority, right? So I feel like I gave you the easiness of the 2-line to pull you out of the 1-line wanting to do too much research and having it perfect and all that kind of stuff, right? So I love that.
And also my only channel coming off my roots being the 52-9. So it's everything funnels to that. So it's also just like finding that focus, right? And not being too much just like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and wait until something happens.
We call it sometimes the couch potato channel, right? Get stuck and watch Netflix for 5 days and not do anything.
And then just knowing that what you want to do, but just really just not knowing what steps to take. And you really helped with that. And getting out of that projection field as well, not just the 1-line but the 5-line. 5-1 profile, right? Just just getting out and getting my message out there.
So tell us a little bit about that projection field of the 5-line, like with the podcast in particular. What have you, like, you feel like that could have held you back from actually doing it?
I think the 5-1 has helped me back throughout my whole life, really, until I realized I had a 5-1 birth, until I realized there was such a thing. And I think not knowing that you have a projection field like that can be quite painful, which is also something that will definitely be discussed in my podcast with other 5-1s. But once you understand how it works, you can kind of embrace it and be like, you know what, it's there, and it's okay. Like, you can actually make it your magical tool.
Can you elaborate a little bit, like, how do you experience that projection?
I can give you a great example, actually. So a couple of months ago, my mother-in-law was here visiting for 3 weeks, and she's also 5-1. And bless her, like, I love this because she's a manifester and a 5-1 manifester. And I've tried to, I've explained some human design to her. She's really, really embracing it now. But she never really understood the 5-1 profile. And we went to the beach one day, really nice, quiet beach. I live in Aruba, by the way. This quiet beach, there's all these palapas and people just like under the palapas and just like snoozing and reading and just enjoying a day at the beach. And then this family came behind us, and they had like a 16-year-old son, and he brought a Bluetooth speaker. And he was playing really loud, like, you know, that teenage rap, hip hoppy, like it was like so, you know, people around, everyone's kind of looking around, and me being I guess having an, you know, a throat center activated, I was like, I just said something nicely. I said, could you please turn the music down a little bit? You know, it doesn't have to be completely quiet, but so he did briefly, and then he turned it back up again when his mother went away for a little bit, and then she came back, and then my mother-in-law asked the same thing of them, and I just got the full load. Like, the woman turned to me and just went I just got like everything, just a shower of abuse and, you know, rationalization, I guess, like, you know, we pay so much money to come here, you know, if we want to play this music. And I was like, okay, you know, and I know, like, with my 5-1 profiling, I know there's no point me trying to reason. You know, I can jump up and down, high and low, try and explain my point. It's not gonna work, right? And my mother-in-law was just like, oh, now I know exactly what you mean. And I ended up saying something like, okay, so you're just going to be selfish about it, that's fine. And then like 2 minutes later she turned it down. You know, it's like I left it there. And but so yeah, so that's a really good example.
That you know this, right? Because like, I think without human design, we take it personal, we counter back and who's right, but you're like, okay, just let that person get that anger out or whatever. This is not for myself. It's such a blessing, right? And I have to say, like, you are 5-1 profile, so this is something as conscious for you, right? As you know, my partner has also 5-1, so I have seen this so vividly in my life, how it plays out from him, and like when I him, and sometimes people like project stuff on him and stuff, you know. But I also like this, I think that's something for the listeners really important. We all can experience this. It doesn't mean like if you're 5-1, you will never project onto anybody. That can also happen, right? Because
absolutely.
We all have 5-line energy somewhere, right? And like I have a 5-line in my unconscious south and north node, that's really big, right? So plus I'm a guild motivation, which is like a 5-line as well. So it's like we all have this, just for you it's much more prominent and like more consistently there in your life. So we kind of learn it through you, right? Through your experience. I love that. So wow, powerful. I think that's very helpful for the listeners, because
I just, you know, and also, as like you said, like I also, when I feel triggered by something, I have to check in with myself, like, wait a minute, am I actually, is the other person a 5-1 that I'm talking to? Like, because that can happen as well. Like, and you sometimes, or actually a lot of the time when I find I'm triggered by someone, it's usually 5-1. And so, and I also have to check in with myself, like what healing do I have to do? Like, even with that situation I just explained, and then I was like, no, this is just rude, right? Like, you know, people are waking up, and everyone was bothered by it. Not everyone, but the people around it, you could tell they were bothered by it, but people were afraid to speak up, and I'm not afraid to speak up. But I also know that, okay, there's no point trying to argue my case too much. I said my piece and that's it. But it was interesting how she actually said that I was being rude. And I just knew she's projecting, right? Because I asked her kindly, can you please turn down the music? But I was rude. So it's like, just let it go. And I think you have my chart there. I think I have 10 or 11 5-lines in my chart. So I have a lot of projection. So my whole life I've been really, as a child, I was very shy, hiding. So it's time to come out of hiding.
Yeah, I already counted 9 so far, but then maybe even 9 or 10.
That's I think 10 or 11. Plus the guilt motivation. Absolutely. So
and you have, like me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're like a amplified 5-line.
I know. It's like, just whatever you see now, ladies, if you don't like it.
If you get triggered by me,
it's not me, it's you. No, I'm just kidding. But you have to be careful of that. That's what I said earlier. You have to be careful. Like, not everything is people projecting onto me, obviously, and I realize that.
And I love that you say that, because that's the thing with human design, where I always get shivers when people take things like black and white with human design. Like, oh, if I'm a 5 line, everybody's projecting stuff onto me. I have nothing, no healing to do or whatsoever. But that's not how it is, right? It really takes some discernment to check in with yourself. Okay, is this right now something for me to work on, or is this that projection going on, that it's just important for me not to take it personal and just respond with love?
Yeah, and also just think about people who have more, like, the more I call it pokey energy, right, in the charts, like the 51 and the 39, and there's that, and with a 5-1, there can be a lot of
My partner has a 39 with a 5-1. That is fun sometimes. Wow.
yeah.
Some experiences with him was like, oh my God, like people just go ballistic on him, seriously.
Oh.
Funny, and he really didn't do much. So now, to make this the most epic episode ever, because something with manifesting generators, right, is that like we are always like in this, either like I'm so bored, or oh my God, I'm so excited, let me do this. And then we have this tendency to jump into things too quickly. We're all over the place, and then we get so frustrated and angry and all this stuff, right? Because when it comes to making big decisions, we have the way to respond, like the generator types, but we also have this envisioning phase, which is almost not talked about at all in the human design space. And we're going to change that, right? Also, by the way, we have this masterclass come up. Whenever you're listening to this, the Multi-Passionate is happening on August the 2nd, 2023. It may have been the past when you listen to this, but we're going to go deeper into this. But today we're going to kind of start to dive into this a little bit, because I want to actually use the example of your decision to launch a podcast. So did this happen overnight? You responded it and then you put it out the next day? Like,
Well, that would have been the old me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I've got this idea and I've got to do it now, and I'd stress myself out, and then I'd probably get crickets, right? Nothing would happen. Or I'd just back out and it'd become too much, or it ultimately wasn't aligned. But this process, no, I feel the last time we spoke for the previous recording, I don't know, it must have been like 5-6 months ago, maybe, that I was on your podcast. And I remember it was short. I'm pretty sure it was shortly after that. I was in the shower one day, and it's usually in the showers that I just get these ideas coming. I don't know what it is. Maybe the water on my head. Yeah, you do. And it's like, and the name came through, and I'll tell you what the name is later. But the name came through, and I was like, I wonder what that name is. I didn't even realize, like, this could be a podcast. Like, as well, could it be a program? Could it be a Facebook group? I've already got a Facebook group. And then all of a sudden it's like, podcast. And it's like, oh, okay. But then, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I'm definitely not ready to do a podcast. But then I sat with it and I felt it. And then I said to you, I remember reaching out to you saying, oh my goodness, Analena, I've got this name that came into me and I feel like it may become a podcast. And I shared the name with you a long time ago. But then Canva is my absolute best friend. I just go on my computer, and I'm a creative, and in my soul plan as well, which is a different kind of modality. My soul destiny is all about being creative, and I never thought of myself as being creative, but I use my creative process to kind of manifest things into existence. So I just went into Canva, and I just put the name in some artwork, and I just started playing with that. It's like, and it's there. Like, I've already put it out in the universe. Like, the name came through, I've put it out in the universe, and now I just have to sit back and see what the universe presents to respond to.
Right.
And that's really how it happened. And then a couple of weeks ago, it was actually someone who said to me, I really would love to hear your voice more. Like, there's something about your voice. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you have this, Analena, but when you listen to your own voice, do you like it?
You know what? I
Learn to like it?
don't like it at all. And now I have learned to love to listen to my own voice, because the infinity healings, for example, like, it's like, oh, this sounds good. But it took me a long time. And I think also because as a 2-line, I kind of tend to deflect my own magic a lot. And people have told me over and over again, like, how calming and soothing voices, and now I'm hearing it too. So yeah, actually, it's not
and
a little like egotistic, but I love my voice.
that's a process, isn't it? But I remember as a kid, you know, when you could record your own voice, and remember when you had recorders, the
I
cassette
used to,
recorder.
honest to God, I used to hate it. Like seriously.
Oh no, is that my voice?
Mm.
So yeah, and then this lady who's also going to be a guest on my podcast, but she actually booked a quantum human design reading with me a couple of weeks ago, merely based on my voice that she heard in a podcast with I think with Karen Curry Parker. I was like, wow, that was really eye-opening for me. Like, people actually want to hear my voice. And so when she said that a few weeks ago, I was like, okay, now the universe is really giving me something to respond to. And I went back to my artwork. I reached out to you and said, hey, if I want to launch a podcast, like, you're the expert, like, can you guide me with that? And so everything is just falling into place. And then it was like, what date am I going to do it? And the transit is aligning perfectly with the lions again. Like, everything's just perfectly aligned. And because I didn't push.
Yeah.
I just let it unfold, and I got things to respond to. And the funny thing as well is the color green, which
that is insane, right? Because we also write green necklaces. We didn't plan this.
No, I know. And in the artwork, there's this bright, it's like this neon green, which I do love neon. I'm an 80s girl, so I love my neon. But and everything on my website's black, white, and red. And this green, and I just couldn't get away from it. Just if I changed it in the artwork, I was just like, no, I tried red, and it's like, no, the green had to come through. And then all of a sudden it's like, hello, it's my voice. And I had this insight, right? My voice, it's like it needs to come out. And now I see the green everywhere.
Funny, right?
Particular activation system is activated. It's like, okay, it's everywhere. But I just see all that as like signs that I'm ready, signs that it's time, and I'll see how it unfolds. Like, it's scary, and but I feel it's perfectly timed.
Beautiful. I would love to recap a little bit the timeline, because I this is so profound for people. So, and I remember, because this was not the first time you responded, right, with the podcast, because that you wanted to do a podcast has been for months, right? And even like, I don't even remember, I may have asked you,
maybe even before that, where you, I think
what do you want to do? And you were like, oh, like, so Debbie, let's say what, about 6 months ago that you first responded for the podcast. But then you let it go because we have learned, okay, now we have as manifesting generators the envisioning phase. You also have emotional authority on top of it. You need to write it away first. So I guess you got the clarity. And I know we talk consistently, right? So it's like, I really want to do the podcast. And then at some point you got the name. First, you didn't even know it was for the podcast, but then like you could just feel, okay, it's the podcast. But let me wait. I'm in my envisioning phase. Let me not jump into it too quickly. Because at some point you get that another thing to respond to where it's just like, okay, now I know.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what happened, I feel like, with the lady that reached out to you. Your voice, and you're like, okay, I have now this certainty in some way. I'm supposed to get a podcast out. And
like a confirmation almost.
He had already, I know you asked me about a month ago already, like, hey, let's do a session because I want you to guide me to, I feel like I'm missing some pieces. What am I going to do? Like, something was holding you back, right? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. But how things were in our schedule and calendar, it took a whole month for us to have that session. We just had 4 days ago, right?
Yeah,
it was on Thursday. Today is Monday. So like, from that, Debbie created her final art graphic, was a huge shift and change, and now I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thanks to your guidance, where you're like, you need to be in here, and I was like, I'm still hiding.
She was totally, her picture was not on the thing. I was like, energetically, it felt so off. It was beautiful, but I was like, I gotta see your face in there.
No, that was funny.
And then you did it. And then I gave you some guidance, like how to create an intro, right? Sent it to Fiverr, I think. And I just heard the intro. Oh my God, guys, like goosebumps.
I know, it's magic.
It is magical. And then the other thing, right? It was a couple of tech things that you have questions about. And Debbie has been on fire since then. And she's launching her podcast when you're listening, when it's coming out, this episode is going to be exactly in a week from now, which is August 8th, 2023 is your launch date, right? And
Yes.
and also right now, what are we doing, Debbie? And this is not, we're not doing this consciously. I'm just realizing this right now. You're informing, right? Because that's how it works. You wait to respond, you freaking wait, write out your wave, you envision. It almost took 6 months. And then you get the final responding, yeah, now it's my time to do it. And now you are here publicly informing it to the world,
I know, I didn't even
on
think
the
that.
World Wide Web,
So
just so you know, not
exciting.
asking for permission, but I'm doing this. Watch out, world. And now you go take action, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you already started to take action by getting everything at it. And the other thing that because I love synchronicities, as you know, right? So the 8/8 date, I also have shared with you how magical it is, because
Yeah.
that is the date, and I just realized this, like this year, I wasn't consciously aware of it, that 5 years ago on August 8th in 2018, I officially registered my business. Got my tax ID and all this kind of stuff. I had no idea about astrology. I had no idea about Lionsgate portal or human design or anything at that time. So, and I have been very passionate. I have been doing the Lionsgate portal activations the last couple of years. Of course, there's one coming this year. It's going to be the best ever so far. And it's the day that your podcast is coming out. And it was kind of, I feel like I'm part of the project with you. And it has been like a journey, because you've been on my podcast. I think you were my first guest on the podcast, for my podcast.
Yeah. Like it was at the Winterland.
Yeah.
In
Oh
the was
yeah, even the
the Rare
YouTube channel,
Christmas.
when I had the first YouTube channel, exactly.
Yeah.
Debbie was always the first. And so you have been on more than 3 times, right? That was
Yeah.
on this podcast is the third time, actually. So, and now I'm gonna be your first guest, right? So, and I'm really, oh my gosh.
And it's funny because whenever I do something, I always look at the transits. Like, what is the energy of the transit? And I said to you last week, well, I'm going to look at what's the right day for me to launch this, like what feels good. So I went and looked at the transits, and I didn't even look at the Lionsgate port. So I didn't even look at 8/8, but I went and looked at what, I wanted to have at least one gate is like a gate that I have activated. And the next one that's coming up is gate 13 in the conscious earth. I was like, well, I have gate 13 in my chart, which is all about listening and speaking and sharing secrets and all that kind of stuff. And my podcast is really about having deep and meaningful conversations with people, speaking from the scar, not from the wound. And then the conscious earth, conscious sun, sorry, the sun transit is the 7, which I don't have, but you have it. It's all about collaboration. So like, well, how perfect is that? So, and then I realized it's on 8, because I looked at what date, because my 13 is in gate is 13/4, right? In my conscious Mars, so 13/4. So I looked at the date, like, what is the yeah, so I looked at that, like when is the 4 activated, the 13/4, and it's actually on the 8th of the 8th. So I know, how crazy is that? So and I don't really like numerology and all that kind of stuff as well. I look at that, like angel numbers. I look at that as well, and I don't I have a great website that I like to use for that, and just to read about it. So I feel there's huge power in numbers, and obviously I think since I started Soul Plan as well, like the energy.
Oh yeah.
Numbers, right? So I'm aligning more and more with that, but definitely the transit energies. So yeah, I'm excited for your Lionsgate as well, your activation.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is so magical because, of course, since I launched my business on that date, right, that is the conscious sun of my business, the 7th. It's also, like you said, it's my half birthday in some way. because my conscious son, when I was born, is the 13.
Mm-hmm.
So can there be more magic? I don't
I
think
know.
so.
I know. It just had to. Yeah, it's perfectly aligned, and I think there's a reason you and I are connected. And it all started with human design, right?
Yeah, that's how we met, right? We met in a
Mhm.
program, and that's what I love so much, you know. And we have shared this, I think, before. We have met in person already. You came here to visit in Florida.
Yeah.
We definitely have it on our list to come to Aruba. I mean, it's not that far away. So yeah, it's just so beautiful. So tell us a little bit about the podcast now and what's the name?
The name of the podcast is
Ladies and
She
gentlemen.
Drum Roll. It's going to be called She Woo Dares.
I
So
love it.
it's not She Who, it's She Woo, WOO. And the reason that really resonated with me when it landed in the shower, it's like for the longest time and I think this is a lot of us, like we push away that aspect of us where we just know there's something more that we can connect to,
Yeah.
but we get judged for that, for being woo woo,
Yeah.
right? Spiritual fluff. It's ungrounded nonsense. So, and I feel like the only way for me to be where I'm now is by having embraced that whole aspect. And I think like a lot of us in this industry as well, and doing human design and you know the Akashic work that I do, the soul plan, and you know you doing the Lionsgate activation, the
Infinity.
infinity healing, like all that is what you could put under the woo woo umbrella.
Mm.
And I also feel like there's many people out there that know it, that sense it, that feel it, but they're afraid to tap into it. For fear of judgment, for fear of just for not trusting themselves, like being too much in their head and having been conditioned away from their woo. But it's about the inner guidance, really, your inner magic. So I'm I feel called to have conversations with people who've had pivotal moments in their life and I've had that moment as well, where it's like that there has to be something more, like this. I can't go on like this because it's unsatisfying, it's not fulfilling. This is not who I'm meant to be. And it's usually in those moments where people can't do anything else but do something unconventional, a little bit different from what they're usually pointed towards. And yeah, that's really what it's about. And hopefully, you know, empowering women um, to really connect more with their spiritual side or their inner woo woo. So that's it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And that's the other thing we were talking about before we got on, right? Like you now have, you know, your podcast is coming out. We're going to record the first episode later this week. It's coming out next week. And do you have it like all planned out for the next year?
Oh, next year. No, no, but
Well,
you know what?
that was a rhetorical
Oh,
question.
no, I have no idea. And that's another thing. It's like I'm not gonna stress about it. I want to enjoy it. I know that you're coming on. I've reached out to other people who I'd love to speak to. And funnily enough, I think I've reached out to 8 women so far, and they were all so super enthusiastic and like, yes. And they were like, hell yes.
Yeah.
Count me in. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, um, it's just so beautiful. And beyond that, I don't know, like beyond those 8 people, I want to post something like every 2 weeks probably, and I'll do some stuff for myself in between, just me. But I have no idea how it's going to unfold. I'm just going to keep following my sacral, just keep aligning and not forcing, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's all I can do.
Because, like, I mean, I intentionally asked you this question, right? Because people, I still like cringe my whole body. It's like, you have a 1 year plan, you have a 5 year plan, and like, how am I supposed to know what breadcrumbs the universe is gonna put in front of me? How
Yeah,
yeah, I am. Like seriously.
I don't even have a 5-day plan. Like,
No, me neither. Me neither. Like I have come to a place where I have a list of things I need to do for the week, but I don't know what day I'm gonna do it. Yeah, if I have a session scheduled with you, I'm committing to show up at that time because
mhm.
I think that works best. But that's the whole thing. Like people think like and they think that creates safety. I need to have it all figured out, or I have to pre-record all these episodes and stuff like that. I have never done that. And when something is meant to be, just like you now, right? You created your intro, you had it made done by somebody, and you just said it to me earlier, like it was just easy.
It was so easy.
When it's meant to be, all the things that are essential, they literally fall on your plate like your lunch is being served. Here you go.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And now from this point on, and this is how my podcast has been too, because people always ask me like, well, how do you get people? How do you do it? I have never, and it's a year and a half now that my podcast has been out, like actively looked for people. They always come to me. It's also my 2-line, of course, right? With my 4-line acting. And sometimes I had times where I had a lot of episodes pre-recorded because I had so many people reach out to me and I wanted to be my podcast. And then I felt like I want to slow it down, and I had really had a big gap. And then I'm sometimes, actually right now, like this episode is being recorded today. It's coming out tomorrow. I don't have anything recorded.
Right.
Always worked out, you know?
Yeah. And I feel that.
And sometimes it's time for me to do solo episodes. And sometimes it's for me to have conversations again. And I have learned to be more selective right now, that I mainly have people on that are really into the topic that I talk about, like human design, gene keys, woo-woo, right? But if just somebody's reaching out to me now, like, hey, I'm this amazing, successful entrepreneur, I've achieved all these things, can I be on your podcast? My cycle is a heck no, because if there's no like spiritual interest or any kind of interest knowledge about human design gene keys, it's just not my audience. And that's like, my podcast is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Because I have also, no, my priority is to listen to my sacral, and I need to be lit up. You know, that's the biggest gift I can give to my audience as well.
Totally. And I feel that. And I was thinking about that this morning as well. Like, you know, I've got these ladies lined up now. And then after that, I was kind of like, I'm just going to see. And I do have an application form that people can click when they get to my website if people want to be on my podcast. But ultimately, I'm going to decide, because it needs to match my energy. It needs to, like I said, I want people to be speaking from the scar, not the wound. I don't want people to be able to say, like, this is what I went through, like share their story. This is what I went through. This is when I really tapped into the woo aspect, or, you know, whatever that may be. Like even human design is already considered woo to a lot of people, until they realize it works. And I get to decide. And if I feel like someone's not aligned, and I think I can especially feel when someone's not energetically aligned with their message.
Yeah,
like there can very much be a difference between someone's energy, what they put out there, versus what they're actually the energy that they're actually in. And that's so basically I can, and I'm sure you can do the same, like I can really see or feel or sense or know when someone's in alignment with their human design or not.
I can smell it by now.
Yeah. Oh, you're not aligned, which is fine. Like, it's not a judgment. It's like it's there's still some work to be done, there's still some healing to be done, and there's still some, it's about authenticity.
And you know, I think that's a very good point, because oftentimes, and being aligned, it's such a big word, right? I mean, we are always aligned, because sometimes we are aligned with being in authenticity to learn what it really looks like to be authentic, right? And we all were there in order to be really in your vulnerable, authentic self. We go through a phase of figuring it out, and we may imitate other people. We may not really know who we are, because we are more trying to fit in than just speak our truth, because we have a fear of rejection and things like that, right? It's not like this, like you can either be either or. There's a process to get there, right? Because I think oftentimes people also get a little bit discouraged, like, all right, you're now aligned, but I'm not. How can I even do anything? Like, don't let that hold you back. When I first started doing Facebook Lives, and even when I started my podcast, I was overthinking it, and I maybe too conscious what to say. And it takes time and practice to let go of what other people think about you, to just share more about your life in a vulnerable way. And of course, there's also like, you don't have to share everything, right? Like also okay
Oh
to
yeah,
have
absolutely.
secrets and
Yeah.
not be an open book to the entire world, right? To have like boundaries and all these kind of things. But it's like wherever you're at is actually, it's aligned for you. And maybe that
Yeah.
looks like, okay, I really feel like I'm not being my authentic self. And that's exactly where you need to be right now. You know,
Yeah.
it's about being aware of it, but going out and doing it anyways. And that's what I wanted to kind of touch upon a little bit right now, because there will be fear, right? There will be like discomfort breaking free from that. Just like you say, now you have it all clear, you responded, you envisioned, you informing the world right now with a podcast. Does this mean all the fear is gone?
No, absolutely not. And I was like talking to my husband last night, we went out for dinner. I'm like, yeah, it's scary, but it's like a good scary. It's an excitement scary. And I once did a workshop with someone, I can't remember his name, but it was about like going beyond the fear, or how fear is like your best friend kind of thing. But he also said something like, you should not push yourself so much through your fear that you end up creating another trauma. Right. So if it's, but this is an exciting fear, and it's going back to that envisioning, me creating in Canva. So I've got a dog that wants to get in, so he's like barking at the doors. No. So me creating, just playing around in Canva now and again, just going back to that artwork, and maybe just even shifting a little bit or playing with the font. You know, it's like that's me creating, like me envisioning. And so it's all like the part of the process, and doing that as well takes away that scariness, that element of the fear is so big. It's not big anymore because I've been playing with this for like the last 6 months.
Yeah. And I just want to share, because I had it visually almost like there is this difference between, you know, pushing when the time isn't right yet. Like, let's say 6 months ago, you responded, you just jumped into it. What would have happened? You had a lot of fears, but you pushed through them. But the universe puts almost like stones in front of you to tell you it's not the time yet, stop. It would be difficult. It would be hard to find people, but you can force it. You can send out 100 messages to people. You can, you know, we can force things. We can make it happen. So, but when the time is right, like you waited like almost 6 months, you let it all like marinate, pieces.
Like it's been marinating.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
While you have fears to break through and the discomfort, that's you stretching into your new, like Debby having a podcast is unconsciously still a threat, because that's not what you know, right? It's new. It's like that has not been your reality before, so it's normal to feel discomfort because you're embarking on a new journey. But what you mentioned is this like ease and flow, and everything is just coming together. So while you have discomfort and you have fears to move through, it flows at the same time. I think that's really what the difference is.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about like, yeah, just go take action and do it. Check in. Do you follow strategy and authority, or are you not even there yet? Then stop pushing. And
yeah, and it's actually just what you just said. I just want to hook into that before I lose it. So it's true. If I'd immediately said, okay, I need to create this, but I need to create this podcast, right? I don't envision as like, oh, this is what I need to do. I may have had people come on and speak, but it wouldn't have been like the message wouldn't have come across. And then what happens? Then you get all these hurdles that you have to, like you said, the blocks that come onto your path. Like you're not getting any feedback, you're not getting any response, nobody listens, you're not getting the people, you're not drawing in the people that you want to speak to, and now that creates even more fear.
Yeah, unnecessarily.
Oh, this is not this isn't right for me. I have nothing to say. I'm not important enough. Who do I think I am? All those insecurities that come through, like who am I to think that my voice matters? The little in the back of your head, and now I'm not in that space. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, not everyone's your podcast's not for everyone, and I know with my 5-1 profiles, like, people are going to judge, and it doesn't matter what profile you have, actually, people are going to judge anyway, but that's their fears. And if people don't like what I have to say, they don't have to listen. But if my podcast can reach one person who thinks, wow, actually I've been feeling this, but I've been afraid to tap into it, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Even if I'm just planting seeds.
Yeah, that reminds me so much, because I have been very actively diving into the Pearl sequence and the gene keys. And I mean, it's something I knew, but it was this final click moment that I had, is that to be most successful, right? But and also with money and everything, and really making impact, being of service first and foremost, right? It's all about your truth is what sells, nothing else. You being your freaking authentic self, that is your truth. And when you fully are in your truth, like your podcast that's your truth, automatically draw in, we call it the soul fractal. It's like your soul family, the people that you're meant to deliver a message down this fractal line. And it's actually so easy. And of course, we're always trying to be for everybody, but no, please don't, because we're a lot of people. Like, if everybody tries to be for everybody, we're going to have a hot mess.
That's what's exhausting, trying to be for everybody.
Exhausting, right? The 40, right? Isn't that the 40, the exhaustion of my core wound and your conscious
unconscious son is the 40. Yeah. And I've got duality a lot of duality in my chart. And I kind of liked what you said earlier. I was like, oh, that's good. Just linking back, you said, like, you're kind of going with the flow. You don't really have anything set up. Because I am also someone, like, I need to retreat. I need to just recharge my battery. And it's kind of nice, like, if I don't want to publish, or whatever you call it, a podcast, I don't even know what you call it, if I want to launch a podcast episode next month, then I don't. Like, it's, of course, you want to keep your audience engaged, but if I need a week of space to just kind of recharge my battery and just, like, sit back and see what the universe is telling me to do, and that's okay. Because then you're going to push again.
Yeah, that was the reason why when I started my podcast, I made the commitment to my audience to show up bi-weekly, because it felt too much pressure, like, to show up weekly. But then it happened anyways. But I think if I would have put that pressure on me to, especially and rude, not so good, I may have not been able to do it. So I gave myself more space, and now I am showing up weekly. Even a couple of weeks, I think I did 2 episodes, but yeah, and it's okay to, that's the other thing with ManiGens, and I think anybody, we can be consistent, but have fluctuations. Like, consistency, I think that's, if it's always the same, that's a definition of boredom, right? How fun is it, like, sometimes to have surprises and stuff like that? Even, like, in my membership right now, I'm enjoying it so much. I commit to 1 call a month, a live call with me, and I respond to what topic it is. And then whatever comes up, I respond. And then, well, I have a tapping video this month for maybe an infinity healing. They get some activations I do here and there, right? Like, there's freshness, which is my one in my unconscious sun, right? So important. And there's the element of surprise. I feel like that actually keeps it active and alive. Like, how boring is it if I sign up for something, it's the same thing every month, and there's no, like, flow. I need flow. That's who I am. That was the biggest thing. Like, for me, the membership now is so more juicy and fresh and fun, and the right people will be there, right? And they already are, because I made it also very clear on the landing page, like, this is who it's for and this is who it's not for, So, because I slow down sometimes, I hide sometimes, and then I'm all in your face very boldly, and so it is what it is. So
that's it. Like, I feel like not having too many you can really put restrictions on yourself. It's like, okay, now I've got a podcast I need to launch every week, and it needs to be 60 minutes long, and I need to do this and this. I need to have, like, a whole description and an email. That's like, no. Maybe one day it'll just be 15 minutes, and maybe the other day it'll be half an hour, and maybe it's an hour and a half. So people can also be like, oh, wait a minute, especially manifest generators, like I don't have an hour and a half, but I've got time for this 15-minute segment right here. Because I know that's how I operate as well. So yeah, I'm just again like just allowing it to unfold how it needs to. That's the most exciting part, because then I don't lose interest. Like it's fun for me and meaningful. I want this to be meaningful, not just for everyone. That hopefully that listens to it and pulls meaning from it, but for me as well. That's why I want to have meaningful conversations, and I've got some amazing women lined up already who I really resonate with, and who I know have been through stuff and have completely embraced the woo and are not afraid to show it and share it, and that, like you, right? So and that's what's exciting, and that's what I'm going for, and how it unfolds, let's find out.
Yeah, I love it. And as a final thing, I want to say, like, this is a beautiful example of how that's the duality. Like, so you can have structure. So the structure right now is I'm committing to a podcast. I'm doing it. I'm showing up bi-weekly. But within that context, I'm allowing myself to flow, to have variety, to do this and that, shorter ones, longer ones, different people, solo episodes, right? And maybe sometimes I want to not show up for a month, and that's okay. And then weekly or whatever, right? So that's how we can combine having structure, like the masculine, and the flow. And that's what I have been experiencing in my own life, right? Because yeah, we're moving out of a society where everything is planned and structured, and then we can also be too much in the flow, right? Of like, I'm just gonna, but not do anything, and not move through any kind of fears. Then we're gonna too much lost in the ocean, and we float around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I just love that. So I love you, you know that. And I'm so excited for you to get this podcast out. I should be listening to it. And I'm so
You're
excited to be on. I'm gonna listen to myself, I guess, and to be on the first episode that's coming out on I guess on 8, right? That is awesome.
Like I'll get the tech all sorted out, and the voiceover, but I will, with your guidance. I've got everything in place. Like I just need to record the episode and put it together in the software and just schedule it on the platform, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And that's also for me funny, because I have been getting this, like, helping people to launch a podcast. I started recording a course for that, I think last year already, and then I dropped it. Not
Right. You had nothing to respond to, maybe.
Yeah, there wasn't enough. It had the idea, and I did, and then now it has been coming up, and now with you, like, I actually get to envision how it feels really good. So now I feel like, maybe I'm gonna put a little course out there, because I see how helpful it is for you, and I'm like, oh, this feels really good, So that's the same thing, like forcing it, and yeah, I put a course out there, I probably wouldn't have sold anyways because the energy wasn't ripe yet. So I love it.
Yeah.
So She Woo Dares launches on Lionsgate portal August 8, 2023. You want to make sure you hop over there once it's coming out. I'm sure I'm going to share it on my social media and my emails as well, so you guys can listen. You can follow Debby, give her some likes, subscribes, and reviews. It always helps us to get the message out there more. And before we finish up, what's your little piece of wisdom you want to leave everybody with?
Oh gosh. Just don't be afraid to tap into that thing that's calling you, that whether it's a voice or a feeling or a knowing. Like you and I both know, with human design, there's a lot of knowing, there's a lot of sensing, hearing. Don't be afraid to start tapping into that, however it feels comfortable for you, and really let go of the judgment, especially judgment to ourselves, right? Don't listen to the crowds, listen to you. That's the biggest message, because that's really helped me in my life.
I get it from that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. Awesome. So thank you for being here. I cannot wait to have you launch your podcast and be part of it. And again, I highly encourage everybody to check it out. She Woo Dares. What a fun name. And thank you all for listening or watching if you see us live. And I'm sending you much love, much blessings. And as always, very excited to be with you all on the next episodes.
Bye. Thank you.